Hello,
we
mate. How's
go.
it going? Yeah, all good. All good.
Why do it that way? Okay, cool. Your hair's nearly as bad as mine. I got a
I've
hound.
committed to the lockdown cut. Admittedly, I didn't want to as short as I wanted
Eh?
to, but committed to it now. So
Yeah. Well, I got a barber, but he's actually been incredibly lazy at the minute. Every time I ask him to do my haircut, and I can say this now because he's watching. Um, he's saying no, he can't be asked. So, Callum, this is officially a shout out.
congratulations.
Um, stop being a lazy little bitch.
Get it done. Oh, you got a hat on
We
it.
went up the hill. Yeah, it's exactly where I got a hound. Yeah, but it's fine. It's fine. How have you been?
Yeah,
You
been
been
good,
okay?
mate. Not a lot's changed really. So, what about yourself?
No. Yeah, yeah, it's been all right. I was supposed to have Winnie up here, but there's food going on
Yeah,
downstairs, so
don't blame him. I don't blame
you know,
him.
food, me, it's always going to be food.
Priorities,
Always going to be food.
priorities.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, no, I just got off the phone with Ben as well, which was nice. Well, I say it's nice. It's nice as it can be anyway.
As much as it can be, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we're doing well so far. Guys, if you have any
Yeah,
questions,
I can't.
let me know. Oh, yeah, we're doing quite well. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. But we will get started now. So, I sent you a list of questions that we
Yeah.
got. I was gonna say the names of who sent the questions, but I thought no point. Um, but we got a decent amount of questions to be fair, which I'm really, really impressed by, and I'm actually really grateful. So thank you guys. Um, I will ask you the question, James, and then what I'll do from that is I will answer the question myself. So, how has a lockdown changed your mindset?
Well, not. It hasn't really changed my mindset to a degree. I'd probably say it's given me a lot more time to focus on progressing myself in a way. So it's given me more time to read, which I don't do very often. I'm not. I'm,
Yeah, last time we were talking about reading, you said you could do about three
yeah, well,
minutes.
to be fair, I'm better than that now. I'm better than that now. I've finished the first book, to be fair. So
It's 4 minutes now.
yeah, come on, really. But no, and let's say focusing on myself really, just doing things like I'm trying to focus on reading, but things that I actually enjoy reading rather than just forcing myself to read something that I have to read. Uh,
What books are they
well, I
then?
finished A Christmas Carol. I thought I'd read that. I'm just going to start a book from James Smith, the Not a Life Coach. So,
Oh yeah, yeah, that's on my
um,
list.
I'm
That's on my list.
starting that. I've only got into about 20 pages of that so far, so can't say much about it yet. But I read the first one, to be fair, that was good. Um,
Mm. Is there a lot of swearing
of
in it?
course there is. It's James Smith saying it. So,
Yeah, it's yeah, literally like my book then. That's a shameless plug
yeah.
for my book.
Yeah. But I've been doing that.
After,
Obviously, I've been doing some workshops as well, so just trying to focus on that. I'm not going to delve into that too much because I want to just keep that to myself for now. And when I
mm,
start doing them, I'll sort of go to talk a bit more about it. But other than that, I really haven't changed my mindset
mm,
that much. What about yourself?
mm. Um, it's it's changed my mindset in the sense of that no matter what gets thrown at you, there are always ways to progress. Always. Um, and I think a lot of us we get used to the same routines day in and day out, and then that we get comfortable with those routines, and it makes us lazy. Um, I got a new article coming out tomorrow, and again, shameless plug for my article coming out tomorrow. But I described it this way. So when people get lazy, it is literally like, when you go for a job interview, right? You get your clothes ready the night before, you get an early night's rest, you've prepped, you've done your research, everything is done. You bring the best you to that interview. And then as time goes on, you kind of just go, yeah, whatever. I can get away with doing the bare minimum. I think what happens is a lot of people are so used to the routines that they've got outside of lockdown, and when something's changed and now we're in lockdown, they're like, oh shit, we kind of just what to do. So it's changed my mindset in a way that I'm like, right, okay, I can still get shit done, and there will be a lot of swearing in this live show with me, so um, I can still get stuff done.
I won't hold back either,
Hey,
so don't worry about
yeah, so I can still get stuff done regardless of lockdown or not. Um, Obviously, it's not quote unquote optimal, but I can
that. I
still
think it's
get
just
it done.
about doing something about it, whatever it is you do. So whether it benefits
Exactly.
you or not, it's just doing something. I think that's the main thing.
It, exactly. And this, I think change is the wrong word. I think it's amplified it a bit more. So to the point where I'm just like, right, okay, even though I've got all these home comforts, I'm still like, yeah, right. There is zero excuse kind of thing. You can either sit on your ass or not, and we'll go into all of that in a minute. Um, but yeah, it's the mindset thing is something I delved into quite a bit from late last year to now, and it's become a big thing for me anyway. But yeah, it's definitely people can either thrive or they can suffer during the lockdown. It's your choice. I think the issue is that people just feel overwhelmed with it, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
well, I mean, I agree and disagree with that. I think sometimes it can be hard if you have support around you. It's probably a lot easier to have to thrive than it is to suffer. Whereas if you're on your own, I think it's a bit
Hmm.
harder. When you're on your own, you've got no support around you. It can be easy to fall into a low point in your life. I think I think for
Mm,
me personally, it hasn't. I say in terms of like suffering and stuff like that, I'm quite fortunate that I don't really suffer. But for me to say about talking about depression in a way that I understand it, I can't really do that because I wouldn't understand how someone feels because I've never experienced it myself. I think something like that would be something someone would need to talk to who has dealt with it, or someone who
mm,
um, knows about it a bit more.
mm. Yeah, I mean, one of the questions I've got is obviously because of the lockdown, a lot of people have been struggling with depression. And one of the questions I've got is, how do you deal with it? There is no right or wrong answer, in my opinion. And like I said, I'm nowhere near a psychiatrist. I'm nowhere near a psychologist. I am literally just giving my
Mm.
opinion of what I've done. Um, but we'll get into that question later on because I will end up getting confused with all the questions and jumping ahead.
I'm just crossing off as I go along
But
anyway, so if I don't get them, you know what I mean, I'll fuck up at some point. So we'll dabble on to the next one then.
yeah, so okay, so this one was to me.
I'll let you go on talking then.
Um, this one was to me. It's from one of my good friends, and they basically said, "How did you become such a savage?" I had to message them and ask them what they actually meant by that. And a few of my Instagram stories where I was just like, stop sitting on the pity potty, you can get stuff done. It was deemed to be quite savage in certain ways. How did I become such a savage? I it's hard. Life experience. Towards the end of last year, I went through some crap mentally. Obviously, James, you know it, but um, and it for the stuff I was taking in, for the material I was taking in from a few people in the industries and stuff like that, and through like my book, there's one thing that came out above all else, and that was choice. The issue with choice is that people just they still don't like to take it. They procrastinate. So I became such a savage by literally saying, right, you have a choice here. What are you going to do? Um, and it's pulling people up on it. So for some people who are just like, right, my choice is to sit on my ass, bitch and moan about it, and stuff like that. Whereas I'm telling you, and you probably say it to some of your clients as well, James, where it's just like, yeah, you can sit on your ass, but you're not going to get anything done by doing it that way. Um, and it's just pulling people up on their own shit,
Yeah.
basically. It's pulling people up on like, right, you got no one's going to come and do this stuff for you. No one's going to come and do the workout for you. No one's going to go and cook the food you need to cook for you. No one's going to hold your hand and oh, I'm sorry and stuff like that. People just don't. You like you said, you can have those family, friends, and stuff like that come and help you. But oftentimes, what they say isn't really in your best interest anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I get.
I mean, the amount of people that are just like, oh, I'll just stroke your ego a bit. Everything's going to be okay. I kind of play the devil's advocate and say it's not going to be okay unless you sort some stuff out. You are going to end up right back where you started. Um, and that's a hard truth bomb to get, is the fact that, unless you sort stuff out, you're not going anywhere. Um, and I know people who are still in the same position they were years ago, purely because they've kind of just started off and then everything slowly got easier to deal with for a while, and then they ended up right back to where they started again. What's your thoughts on all that? Because you're not as much of a cut and dry kind of mentality as I
I
am, if that
think
makes sense.
I think you got to play a part to the individual you're talking to. I mean, I get what you're saying. Sometimes you have to talk to some people as tell them straight. But at the same time, I think sometimes some people do need that bit of a cushion behind them just to support them. And then if you're at your bottom point and you got someone saying you need to get it done, but they haven't got the mentality, the the drive to go forward, and they need a bit more motivation. Like you say, bit of a stroke in the back, so they can want to be fine. I think sometimes that does help to a degree. Again, I know what you mean. Like some people do need a big drive. But at the same time, I think it just depends on the individual you're talking to. I think some people do need that support. Some
Mm,
people do need that push. Again, I think obviously you know as well as I do. You come across it as you talk to them anyway. You understand if someone need a bit of a push, does someone just need a bit of support, and that comes
yeah,
the first hour you talk to them.
yeah. I mean, when we're talking about like my Insta stories, which is what they were referring to, is it's very generalized. Um, Same with my book. The same message is sent across in my book. It's very generalized. When James and I are talking to clients, is we can. I'm not sure about you, James, but I can kind of guess how savage I can be when I'm talking to a client for the first time. So if you're having a taster with the client and you're just like, right, okay, yeah, this client clearly needs some cushioned motivation, slow steps and stuff like that. And then there's other clients who, I don't know if you've had the experience, James, where you talk to them and you're just like, I could be as brutal as I want to with this person. I got a few, and when I put them through their paces in the gym, they swear at me and everything. And I'm just like, you know, I will tell them straight. I will just be like, yeah, no, you're not going to get anywhere until you sort stuff out. Um, I think it all depends. So both ways will get you to where you want to go to. One way is just like more innocent, more cushioned. Both ways are honest, but this cushion, like you said, is tailored to the individual. But when you're talking generally, when we're talking into like books and Instagram stories and Instagram posts, yeah, yeah, like for some people, myself, for example, I resonate a lot more. It motivates me a lot more when I hear someone say to me, or I listen to a motivational video and someone says, look, no one's going to come and do stuff for you. You just need to get it done. For me, it resonates a lot more and it motivates me. For others, they, like you said, they want the cushion blow. So it is down to like personal preference. I mean, what do you prefer? Do you prefer it to be cushioned, or do you prefer someone just to pull you up on your own
For me
shit?
personally, I'll probably get pushed a bit more. I've had it where I've had it cushioned. Didn't I've probably talked about it in a sporting sense. So I've had people talk, you'll be all right, just keep going, sort of thing. It doesn't work for me.
Mm,
I'd rather have someone shout at me down my neck. Just get, hey,
mm,
what are you playing at? Get your shit together. Get on the pitch, sort of go from there.
mm,
Where I've had halves where I've had a manager, assistant manager talk to me. I've had an assistant manager before the game talk to me, arm around the shoulder, come on, you'll do all right today. And at half time, I've had my manager speak to me and say, you're playing fucking shit, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And second half, going into the first half, shit. Going into the second half, I've got something to work for, but no shit the first half, I've got
mm.
something to work to motivate myself for. And I think, yeah, for sure. For me personally, a push, like kick up the ass is definitely what I need over
Mm,
a bit of a cushioned approach. But again, that's just me. And you say for yourself, you would have that as well.
mm.
I think it all depends on
Yeah.
the individual. In terms of social media, it's a very broad platform, like you said. You don't necessarily
Mm,
speak to a certain individual. You're talking over a course of X amount of followers, X amount of people. So it's not individualized to a certain person. You're just a broad society, I guess.
mm. Yeah, and it's when you're looking at like personal preference, like you said, at the start when I was starting out, I probably wanted that cushion blow, but as you get used to it, it's different. I mean, you and I both have the same like business kind of coach, like
Yeah.
Ben. And for everyone who watches my Instagram knows who Ben is by now. Um, so, and he's very much, you know, he will tell you exactly how it is. When I was going through my rough patch late last year, he didn't hold back in any way. He was the same brutally honest savage that I wanted, I
Yeah.
needed. And it wasn't like, oh, you'll be okay and stuff like that. It was like, no, dude, tuck it up, get on with it, literally. And yeah, it is exactly what you need. It does differ on different people. But on that note, we'll go to the next question. So, this person said they are struggling with motivation to keep active. I'll let you answer first, James, and then I will answer afterwards. To be fair, probably maybe the same kind of answer, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, motivation itself, I don't think it's a good motivator anyway.
Mm,
Motivation doesn't really come from starting a new goal or whatever. I think you know you either want to do it or you don't. It's not you don't have to motivate yourself to do
yeah,
it. Um,
yeah.
but in terms of struggling with motivation itself, start small. Especially when you're staying active. I think a lot of people feel that in order to stay active, you have to go to the gym, you have to go for a run or a bike ride, and you don't. I learned something as I started being a PT, that like Ben was doing competitions and stuff like that. A lot of the time he was just on the treadmill walking when he was just in between time of training other clients, and that's yeah, he
He
still
still
does.
does.
But I mean, when I asked him about the cardio, he said, "I just do walking." I said, "Well, that's the only thing you need to do. Just keep your steps up. Start off small. If you're hitting 5 steps a
Mm,
day, maybe rather than trying to
mm,
do 20,000 steps a day, start by doing 7 to 9,000 a day, going up from there. You hit a 9,000 target average, go to the 10,000. You hit 10,000, go to 11. It gets easier and easier every time you do it. And you start to feel a threshold to what you're doing. You feel better mentally. You feel better. Your posture's better. Your leg strength's better. Your heart rate drops down massively. It's amazing what steps can do once you start mounting them up. And I think that's the biggest thing people miss, is that you have to go for a run. You don't. You can just do a walk
mm.
for X amount of miles, or X amount of steps, and that's it. You can do that in your house. One big
Yeah.
thing for me is I want to get a bike for the house, because all I want to do, if I'm watching a match, if I'm watching a game, 90 minutes, 45 minute half, 45 minutes
Yeah.
watching a game, that'll fly by. 15-minute break when they have the
Mm,
interval, and then another 45 minutes. That's 90 minutes without even thinking about it. So
mm.
try and find motivation, if you want to call it that. Try and find motivation to something you enjoy, or something you have to really think about pondering doing. Probably my
Mm.
opinion on that. I don't know whether you think it's the same way.
What's the bike again? Is it like one of those Peloton ones, or
That
is it one of those like just normal bikes that's got those
like
roller
Peloton, I
things with it?
love, to be fair. I want to join the bandwagon of
Yeah.
that, but I'll probably get a normal swim bike. Just something like that. Just something to keep me moving.
Mm,
That's for next
mm.
few years. Peloton.
Yeah.
We'll
That's
get
the
it.
next step. Yeah, so motivation essentially is an emotion. Emotions come and go, like thoughts, they just flow, they come and go. So motivation can help give you that little kick to start, but it's not going to stay. There is no way it's going to stay. It's going to ebb and flow. Some days you're going to feel like doing it, some days you're not. This is why routines and habits are so important. And this is why fitness professionals and people who actually know what they're talking about, um, they try to get across how important these routines actually are. Um, when you are struggling with motivation, oftentimes the thing that you don't want to do is the thing you need to get motivated to do it. If you don't want to do that activity, um, if you don't want to do a small 10-minute YouTube workout or something like that, one of the tips I use myself and with my clients is count down from 10. On 0, you get up and do it, regardless if your body says no. Um, so if I find myself procrastinating with, I don't know, writing or something like that, I count down from 10, and on 0, I go and do it. Someone who struggles to get out of bed, this is another perfect thing for them to do. I love my sleep, so I used this before in the past, where I count down from 10, and on 0, I get up out of bed. Um, so if you struggle with motivation, a tip I would say is that thing you don't want to do, count down from 10, on 0, you go do it. Don't rely on motivation. It's no way near as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's nowhere near as resourceful. Yeah, kind of the same thing. It's nowhere near as you can't rely on it. It's nowhere near as reliable. That's what I'm looking for, reliable. It's nowhere near as reliable as what people think it is. Using motivation to start installing routines and habits that will allow you to stay consistent um, throughout when motivation is low. So when you can't be asked to do it, that is usually a time where you just got to get up and do it anyway. There is some, like I said, there is minutia involved with, like, if you don't want to do a workout, oftentimes I do suggest doing the workout and going through the motions. However, sometimes when you go through the motions, that's where injury can happen. So it depends on what you're going through the motions with. If, for example, like I went out for a walk up the hill today, if you can't be bothered to do it, there's not as much risk of injury as there is if I was to do, say to you, right, okay, we're going to do a bench press, we're going to do like a 10 rep max bench press, and we're going to go quite close to muscular failure. So the closer you get to muscular failure, the more risk of injury there's going to be, because technique can start wavering. There's not that much of a risk of injury, depending on obviously how slidey it is. If it's something like today, oh, that was funny. That's another. Yeah, it was great. It was brilliant. But when there's going off tangent slightly, but oftentimes just getting it done anyway is usually what you need to do. If you're struggling to, if you're contemplating having a takeaway or something, go ahead, even though you're thinking about it, go ahead and cook the food that you're supposed to be eating anyway. And then by the time it's cooked, you're like, well, I cooked it now, so I may as well eat it. Those thoughts are going to ebb and flow. It's just about making sure you try and stay on track as much as you possibly can. When routines are out of whack like they are now, you've got to make a new routine, it's going to make it even harder. And that's where, like, you make a whole new routine that you're able to stay consistent with.
Routine, just trying to, I think the biggest thing for people trying to do motivation as well, I mentioned it to a degree anyway, and you just mentioned it there, is when people start doing things, they tend to go from 0 to 100 straight away. And it's not going to work. I mean, for me, even I was guilty party of doing it myself when I was back, when I was inexperienced. I'd go, right, I've never been to the gym before, I'm going to do 5 sessions a week, and I'm going to try and hit as much weight as I can in that first week, even though I couldn't lift. Didn't know how to lift. And I was just fucking throwing weights around, not having a clue what I was doing. Lo and behold, 4 weeks later, I had an injury. So, same again. And you said about a motivation or a mindset as well. Probably had the same situation a few years back where I tried doing a shoulder press, had the dumbbells up, lost focus, and then ended up like damaging my shoulder, and still hurts now. Like you said. So, I think you're right. It's just about keeping focused, and if you aren't mentally ready to do a workout, then just perhaps it's probably better not to do it that day. Just focus on another day.
Yeah, focus on a day of focusing on a alternative that has less risk of injury. Like we said, so if it's a case where you know that going ahead and doing a heavy weight session isn't a viable option because you're just not focused enough, maybe stay around 50% of your 1 rep max so that you can still get a good enough workout, but the risk of injury is a lot lower, even if it means you're just going through the motions. I mean, shoulder press wise, as long as you're strong enough, doing shoulder press with 5 kilos on each side is going to be far more easier than doing it with the 10 kilos on each side, and then so on and so on and so on. So essentially it's like a deload concept, but that's completely different to what we're talking about. So struggling with motivation to keep active, it would, if we could summarize it, it would be to go ahead and do the activity you're struggling to get motivated for anyway. If the activity requires you to do something that could potentially cause injury, then try and change it for another viable option, or manipulate what you are doing, manipulate the option that you had to make it less injurious. That's what I'd say anyway. And then obviously you would say something like, what am I talking? You could say, what would you say?
Same situation. I think with motivation, just set your foundation strong. focus on your foundations, and then from there, once you've got your foundations set, it's like building a house. You start with the foundation. Once you've done that, find the details after. Get that done. You will be in a strong position to go and do what you need to do. If I set anyone a plan, obviously I would set them a training program. But the first thing I set them to do is get your foundation sorted first, then look to do 3 sessions plus a week. Maybe to start off with, if you're going to be to the gym before, there's no point doing 4 or 5 sessions a week. Just start small.
Were you going to say 10?
10 sets. Start with 10 sets, and then that's it. But yeah, it's not like that. Just set the foundations realistic, and then go from there. I think you're going to find it a bit more motivational to do a step count, wholesome foods, and sleep. Then work on gym as a secondary to what you're doing there. I think that's probably the best way to suggest it. Set a foundation.
Yeah. Foundation for habits of routines, people. They are a lot more important than you think. Okay. So next one. This is. Yeah. Why am I such a great client? I don't think they're actually watching, so I'm not going to answer that. So moving on. Best books for mindset. This is something I've been reading into at the minute. But are there any? Hold on. Actually, no. They just joined. Why am I such a great client? Why? Because you do everything I tell you to do, and you are a good client. You stay consistent. I'm here. I think that was you. Yeah, you're a great client. You are a really cool client. Thank you for being my client. I mean, I know you're not going to say that when we're back to the gym and then you're in pain, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So yeah, sorry, moving on. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I'm not coming back. Best books for mindset. So I was doing my reading for this. Is there anything? Obviously, you just started reading and stuff like that. Have you got any that you've read before in the past?
I've got a few viable choices, but that's just my personal opinion. In terms of mindset, again, and revert back to the other question about motivation. For me, as I'm not a keen reader, and I'll openly admit that I'm not much of a reader. For me, trying to force myself to read books is definitely not the one. I'll go for about 15 to 20 pages, and I'll just say, no matter how motivational it could be, it probably is very incredibly motivational, but I'm just not going to read it. So I think it matters of perspective, but for me personally, definitely I've read, as I mentioned before, the James Smith books. So I read the Not a Diet book. That was incredibly useful, especially when you're looking to try and especially when you're trying to look at your diet and all the fads out there and things like that. I think it's definitely a good book to look at when you're looking to try and set, again, foundations, things like that. Similar again, probably Not a Life Coach as well, which I'm reading from James Smith. But again, I don't know enough about that to say whether it's worth reading, because although people have said it's just as good as the first one, if not better, I don't know because I haven't read it. But other ones. I don't really read much in the sense of mindset, to be honest. I just read to enjoy reading. I don't read things for motivational purposes, for mindset. But James Smith is a book I'd probably recommend for sure. I think you're probably going to be better to speak about this one than I am, because I haven't really got that many.
James, so I've got I've actually got a 5-page Word document that is full of books, and because it's me, it's the way I am. I broke it down into a table, and I broke it down into 4 sections. So I got one about life, one about fitness, one about nutrition, what about business, and all these are sections. And in these sections, I've got about 2 pages each section that has books in, and each of those books have got a link and the price. So every time I buy a book, I just cross it off. But I've got about, like I said, I've got 5 pages, so I
I'm
still got
gonna,
a
I
long
thought
way to
you were
go.
saying books then.
Um,
5 pages worth of
yeah,
beer all night. Yeah.
five
We'll
pages.
be all right there, man.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the best books for mindset. Uh, this one is absolutely amazing. If you can get this book, go for it. Um, the book is incredibly different to the way that people usually say. So a lot of books are on mindset. So oftentimes like positive self-help books. Like I said, they stroke your ego and stuff like that. And one of the ways that helped me, you know, as it helped me with the book I wrote. It's this negative self-help tool. So it's essentially saying, right, okay, yes, there's negativity coming in, but you choose. Obviously, I'm going to plug my own book. So I've got a book out, and whilst I was going through a crappy time late last year, I started reading these books. I saw a lot of trends, um, and the trend was that regardless of what we are going through, um, there will always be pain and suffering. Always. Not necessarily physical pain, a lot of times mental pain, anxiety, depression, rejection, guilt, stuff like that. There will always be pain and suffering. However, you have a choice. You can choose what pain and suffering you endure. So, for example, if we take the motivation thing and get into your goals, you can endure the pain and suffering of discipline, which is essentially sacrificing what you want at that moment for something greater, or you could suffer the pain of guilt and frustration and stuff like that because you gave in to temptation. Both are going to cause pain and suffering, but you choose which one. It's like there's a quote out there that says, marriage and divorce are both hard, but you get to choose your hard. And it's true. You choose what it is you suffer for. Um, so my book, and the link is in my bio for my book. Yes, I am plugging it. I'd be stupid not to. Um, what else have we got? So I've just finished reading this one, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And it is very much about discipline and very much about take ownership for your actions and take ownership for your faults and the things you've done wrong and stuff like that, and look to change them. I will say one more, and that is this one, The 12 Rules for Life. It is an incredibly hard read. And I say hard because, pardon me, there's a lot of big words in it.
I'll be fucked then.
Pardon me. Yeah, there's a lot of big words in it. And the way he explains a lot of his concepts through like the Bible and stuff like that, which is really weird to get your head around. But I've had to read a couple of pages a few times and be like, what? So, yeah, that's but there are some golden gems in there, some really good golden gems in there. It's not a big book, it's a tiny book. I've got small hands, so it is a tiny book. But that's another good one as well. So, authors Mark Manson, very good author for self-help books. Myself, and Jordan B. Peterson. Start there, and then once you've another one I will say is Nick Shaw. Nick Shaw did a book called Fit for Success, and that is a very, very good book. It's only an ebook, but it's incredible. The way he's broken it down, it's easy to read. I like my science was got a hell of a lot of science in there as well, which is awesome for me. And I know I've got quite a few guys who enjoy the science side as well. So yeah, that would be another book that I would recommend. It's called Fit for Success by Nick Shaw. Okay, so dealing with depression, James. It is a rabbit hole. And like we said, we aren't psychiatrists, we aren't psychologists, we can't diagnose it or anything. We can only give our opinions. And our opinions on just on us that have helped us. I've struggled a lot with it in the past. I don't know about James, but James, if you could give what you would do, obviously, if you haven't had the experience of dealing with someone who has depression, what would you do?
To be honest, I looked at this question before, and to be honest, again, for myself, I've personally never experienced it. Thank God. I've been around people who've had anxiety and things like that, but to be honest, it's not one of those things I've experienced a lot of,
Mm,
and but I wouldn't know how to react in the sense of how to deal with it and how to help with it. But I'd say probably the best thing for myself as a PT would be reverting to the sense of active lifestyle, probably doing things to
mm,
help yourself with it. And mindfulness, maybe perhaps that'd probably be a good option to go with. Just obviously they always talk about meditation as a sense of helping with your mental health, so it'd probably be a good way to go as well. And again, I think the beauty of meditation and mindfulness is that it doesn't need to take out a large chunk of your day. I think
mm,
you could probably use a mindfulness moment in your day as 15 to 20 minutes, well, 15 to 30 minutes of your day. And they always say about breathing, obviously that's what, a minute of your day. On the Apple Watch, it says you do a minute of your head, like your deep breaths. So it's a minute of your day, 5 times a day, 5 minutes. I think that's probably the best way to look at it. But that's probably all I could recommend in how to deal with it. Because I've not experienced it myself. I wouldn't know,
mm,
haven't experienced anyone with it to the degree of it being that severe. So
mm.
obviously it's beyond the time now of keep your chin up. You can't really say that anymore.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it is a bigger issue now. Well, it's always been a big issue, but it's been
Mm,
more apparent now than it has been
mm,
in let's say the 50s, 60s, going on from there.
mm.
So I think obviously with that issue, it's probably something that, again, people support around you. That's always a big thing. Active lifestyle, food as well. Food will play a massive part. You always hear the saying, I feel shit after eating a shitty meal. It's a shitty meal, you're going to feel shit. Uh, yeah,
Quite
but
literally.
I think obviously nothing wrong with having shitty food. You can have it as part of your lifestyle, but just moderate it over a balanced diet. I think that's probably the best way to go. Just try and find moderation in your lifestyle. Try and find mindfulness in your lifestyle and an active lifestyle. That's probably all I can recommend.
Mm,
You'll probably delve into it a bit more in depth than I
mm,
will, because I say I've never experienced it in that sense. So.
mm. Mindfulness is a tricky one. I think it's one that's very, it's quite a confusing topic for people. Essentially, what mindfulness does is it helps you return to the present moment. That's the whole idea. That's pretty much, as far as I'm aware, it's the whole premise around it. If I'm wrong, um, please, and someone knows a bit more, please, someone pop up and explain. I haven't really looked into it that much, so it's very hard for me to give an accurate opinion. Uh, but the way I see it is mindfulness allows you to return to the present moment. Oftentimes, when we're anxious, we think of what's going on in the future. Oftentimes, when we're depressed, it's sometimes it's about what's going on in the past and so on. But it's such a misconstrued thing. There's so many things going on. Um, I've dealt with it myself, and it's fucking horrible. It's not nice at all. Um, you have good days, you have bad days. I've had people around me that have struggled with it a lot, um, and it's incredibly hard to put yourself into another person's shoes when you haven't experienced it to that degree. Um, People experience depression various different ways. So the way I'd experience it might be different to the way you experience it, might be different to the way someone else experiences it. Um, but the recommendations you made about exercising and stuff like that, for those of you who don't know, exercise releases endorphins, which is a feel-good hormone. Um, Even though you may not feel it at the time, if you're in pain, towards the end, the endorphins released. You feel good, you feel happier, even if it's just for a split second, or a couple of minutes. But those couple of minutes are more than what you felt before if you were depressed. So, um, if there's something where you feel you need some, professional help with, then definitely go for it. There's no shame in it. I've had it before. There's no shame in it. Done wonders. Fucking expensive though.
I've never known. How much is it then?
Yeah. I was quite lucky. I got mine for just over 30 quid, but before that, like a few quotes, back when I was having it was, at least over 50. I was per session, mind. That wasn't, and they were saying probably like once, maybe twice a week. But so it's like when you get like sports massages and stuff like that. They say, oh yeah, it's about 40 quid. Oh, okay, that's not too bad. Yeah, you're gonna come every week then. What?
Yeah. Sports
So
massage, 40 quid just to have someone dig their thumb into your shoulder and scream in pain. I love it.
yeah, I mean, I had going off topic slightly, but the last time I had a sports massage, um, it was a woman. She was about, and she had her knuckles. She was digging them into my neck, and genuinely, I've never had a woman over 50 nearly make me cry like she did. Like the pain was unbearable. Um, I go so far. I go so far to say it was worse than getting my tattoo. Genuinely. And I screamed like a bitch when I got my tattooed. My pain tolerance when it comes to stuff like that is pretty
Paint on
low.
your arm, kid.
But
Nice.
hey,
Paint on your arm, kid. I'm not surprised at it.
yeah. So yeah, it's gonna kill when I get the inside done, but
Oh, yeah.
cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm actually really excited to have it done, but I won't be when I'm getting it done.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be like, why do I do this? But yeah, so dealing with depression, it's a really tricky one because everyone is different. If you feel you need some professional help, go for it. That is definitely something I would say. Someone who's well versed in things like that. My personal opinion, what I've done to help me, um, get into a routine. Get into a routine again, and there's that word of doing things that will ultimately benefit you. So for me, training was a non-negotiable. I would always train. Reading at the time, and still is now. I read for 30 minutes a day. That's it. Um, Reading, that's another non-negotiable for me, and it was then. Um, and plan. One of the things that helped me was planning my days, making sure my days were productive, making sure that I was going towards where I wanted to go. Um, so I wasn't, so the time I spent relaxing, um, that's when it was usually kicking quite hard. So like in the evenings and stuff like that when I was just before I was going to bed. But during the day, I was so busy, right? I had this job to do, this job to do, this job to do, this job to do, that it, I didn't have much to think about apart from what I had to get done in that moment. And then when I got that done, it was like right on to the next thing. So if you can fill up your time as productively as possible, and that's a key thing, don't just be busy for the sake of being busy. Do things that will help you get to where you want to. It doesn't matter how small it is. But do things that help you get to where you want to get to. And yeah, make sure if you can, make sure you have good people around you. I'm very blessed with my family. I say this to everyone. My family, even though they're fucking crazy, they are really crazy. But you know, I'm really blessed with my family and the people I have around me. So that you know, I had that as well. But it's just it's a really touchy topic, and we can go into the rabbit hole more. But I am no way near educated enough for things like that, and I can only give my opinion. So we will move on. Okay, so thoughts on what influencers endorsing products for health. So I think that's a case of influencers that you see on Instagram, YouTube, TV, and stuff like that, celebrities endorsing products for health. Wasn't there a woman, Gemma Collins, who was like doing like a skinny jab thing?
I mean, I've got plenty of this.
And then I was like, because it's on the book you're reading as well, so it's, you know you can just ramble on. But I saw it and I was like, oh my God, because James Smith he done a like a Instagram video on intermittent fasting, um, and it hit the nail on the head. And I one of my clients said, "Oh, what do you think about intermittent fasting?" I was like, "Do you know what? I don't even need to say anything. I'm just going to send you this video, and then you can take it for yourself." But yeah, I will let you talk about this.
I could be, to be honest, this is probably one of the subjects I could be here all night talking about. It's one of these things.
Well, don't be here all night because I'll get in the
I see at
mask.
some point. So, no, it's one of those things I could probably talk about for fucking ages. And I mean, it's obviously January now. It's that time where people are starting to do New Year, New Me. Companies understand that there's a new year, new me concept going around, so they get their influencers. People who follow these influencers are usually quite young. When I say young, sort of young teens, sort of late teens as well. And these companies are going to these influencers and asking them to promote a product that these influencers don't understand and they don't care. I mean, yeah, I would say they wouldn't care because they wouldn't endorse these products as the miracle weight loss theory for 10 days because it's simply impossible. Well, depending on what goal you want, it's simply impossible to lose that amount of weight in 10 days, apart from what weight, which is pretty much what these are. It's just basically an overpriced laxative. So if you want to shit your pants all day, but in my opinion, it's a shit way to make money. And I've done a post about it on my social platform about it. Not as in depth. I'll probably talk about it now because I'm better speaking like this than I am trying to make a video. It takes me 45 minutes to make a 2-minute video. But I tried that. It's one of those things. It's like I saw one on my story as a sponsored video, and I thought, you know, when you watch something and then the algorithm plays a part, and then you see more and more like that. So I kept seeing all these like Schmoombod and I'm not gonna say names you probably know, Schmoombod and Schmimmy Tea and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Promoting their product, saying that the miracle weight loss product. Of course, I think the main thing is as well is they do like a before and after picture, and they talk about James Smith. He did it perfectly. He said you've taken a picture within 10 minutes, changing your clothes, one with your belly sticking out, one with it sucking in. And you're saying this is a 10-day transformation. I'm thinking, no, it's not. You just change your lighting, you change your clothes, and you suck your gut in. That's all you've done. And it's pretty shit because it does. Because I've had to admit, even when I started out as a PT, I saw some of these things and I thought, actually, that's very convincing. And even then, I was thinking, maybe it does work. But then, obviously, you look into it, it's like, that's a load of shit. But if it's convincing me, think, actually, that's really convincing. And what's it thinking to the people on social media? Thinking, a good example is, you get, let's say a company goes to an influencer with 1 million followers. They got 1 million followers and they go promote this product to those 1 million people. 900,000, I say 990,000 of them think it's a load of shit. Go fuck yourself, I'm not going to get that. 10,000 of them think, actually, you know what? That's pretty good. I might buy it. And then you got 1,000 at the end. Actually, I'm going to buy this product. 1,000 people have just sucked up into the buying this product that's not going to work for them. They might be clinically obese. They might be anorexic, but they'll still buy it because they think they need to buy it. And then they'll ship out the product over the next 10 days and think, oh shit, I've lost 10 pounds. No, you just lost a load of water weight. That's about it. And they're thinking, oh, I've done it. I've done my goal now. I've lost 10 pounds. I'm going to go back to normal. Weight shoots back up again. And I'm thinking, fuck, I've just put the weight back on. How am I going to do it? Oh, I know. I'll just buy the product again. And it's just a reverse cycle over and over again. And to be honest, it's a pretty shit way of looking at it. And it's pretty, again, I'll go back to James Smith. He explained it in a podcast perfectly. He, not related to the products themselves. I will explain that to a degree. It's just that there's the principal, the consumer, and the company itself. And the company are just feeding the consumer the product, but not giving them the principle. So they're just they're providing this product, and the consumer's buying it, not understanding it, and then just reverting back to it every time because they're always arm's reach from the product, or from the goal they want. So every time they're paying more and more money. They're not understanding the dynamics of weight loss for a deficit, calories in versus calories out, energy expenditure, things like that. So they're always going to be doing this. They could change nothing about their diet, but they'll just eat or drink whatever they're going to take, these products, and they might change just because of the fact they're shitting more. That's literally it. And I think that's my opinion on that. I say it's one of those things that pops up more during January, of course, because it will. They're going to try and like us, like any retailers, things like that, sales. It's all about sales during the January period, or people starting a new goal. So we go in and say, oh, come to us if you're looking for support, things like that. But the fact that you just see it more in January is probably the reason why people pay attention to it more. I think that's probably as much as I can say about it. I don't know whether you probably feel the same way about that. Well, of course you do, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be talking any sense. So.
Yeah, so the way the principles behind things will always stay the same, regardless of what the goal is, regardless if it's fat loss, regardless if it's muscle building, regardless if it's performance for a certain sport. Principles will always stay the same. It's how you go about implementing those principles. One of the things I talked about it in my book is a lot of the media is they thrive, or they don't thrive, but they try to access again your pain, or your insecurity. So if we take the example of teeth, for example, okay. Someone's got really bad teeth. Oh, okay. Or someone's struggling with dentures. Or someone has sensitive teeth. That kind of thing. Someone has sensitive teeth, and there's a thing on TV that's just been advertised and just said, okay, if you've got sensitive teeth, have this. Someone thinks, oh wait, yeah, I've got sensitive teeth. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go grab that. And then so they try to get to you through your pain, through your insecurity, through what you're going through at that time. Without telling you like you said, the principle behind it. So if someone's struggling with fat loss, they're just like, okay, right, you want to lose weight, take this or do this. You will lose this in this amount of time. And people think, okay, yeah, fine, I'll take it. Sorted. Don't have to worry about it. But if you ever seen this small print when they put these like Slim Fast things on, it's like taken with a calorie restricted diet. And this is like, yeah, because that's probably exactly what they've done in order to achieve those results.
Anything that you put into a fine print, you're safe, aren't you? So they can say, well, my product works with restricted diet. No, it doesn't, because you've got a restricted diet.
Yeah.
But another example as well is, so recently, we're talking about these influencers. An influencer actually came on. She changed her ways. So she went on to a podcast with a guy called Darren Cartel. He's the the creator of the Neat 24/7, and she was an influencer who actually promoted these products, and she didn't know. She openly admitted when she was selling these products, she didn't know what they would do, didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
But she openly admitted to everything she did, and she said, "Now I don't sell them, and I know what not to sell them because I know because of you guys, like Darren, James Smith, like BioLane, and all that sort of people, sort of catching them out,
Yeah.
like calling them out, saying, "What the fuck are you talking about? You're talking absolute shit." And she decided, right, I'm going to go on this podcast and just clear the air. Which, to be fair, you've got to respect that, I guess. She got called a load of shit and she went onto a podcast and said it. But that's one person and probably millions of influencers that promote stuff. So it's more stuff.
Yeah.
But
It's money. It's
yeah,
money at the end of the day. Um, yeah, and people in the media and the businesses will make money off your pain, money off your insecurities. But that's going into a different topic. Um, okay, so we've already discussed motivation, thoughts on it. Struggling to stay disciplined. Um,
probably use that in a sense of like,
yeah, struggling to stay disciplined. It is, and again, I'm going to turn into a bit of a savage here. It is literally as simple as just doing it anyway. You're struggling, the majority of the time you're struggling to stay disciplined because you're thinking about it. Stop thinking about it and get it done. That's my no nonsense kind of, when people struggle to stay disciplined, oftentimes, even myself included, I find I'm just thinking about it too much. And this is one of the case of I have to rein myself back in and go and just think, dude, stop thinking about it. Just do it. Just get it done. What's your thoughts on that? Is it the same?
yeah, I mean, can't really get disciplined without actually doing something in the first place, to be fair. So, again, setting foundations for yourself, make things easy. If you are if you are really struggling, make things easier for yourself. Start off small, and build up to it. Nothing's. I guess it's the old cliche, isn't it? If Rome wasn't built in a day, you've got to start somewhere to actually build up to where you want to be. So foundations, starting small. Depends what sort of discipline you're talking about as well. It's a subjective view. You can't really say you're disciplined and then say what you're not about. What you're not talking about, because it could be discipline regarding a job, it could be discipline regarding training. Depends what you really want to talk about. If you want to talk about fitness, let's say set foundations. Well, I mean, anything really, set foundations and start small.
I think the issue, one of the issues with starting small is this catch-22. So people who would start small are often those who would be like, they'd be like, oh, I could get away with doing this instead of doing so. They'd use it as an excuse to do less, if that makes sense. There is a time and a place to back off, and like James said, it goes both ways. There's a time and place to back off, and there's a time and place where you just say, right, I just need to give myself a kick up the ass. Ultimately, you are going to be, as in you, the individual, is going to be the person who is able to tell honestly themselves if they are being the person that is genuinely needing that kick up the ass, and needs to say just do it, or if they're like, okay, I'm really struggling here, let's back off slightly, and let's just do it this way, and then we'll build ourselves back up after a while. You as an individual is usually the best person to decide that. All I would say is be careful you're not using the let's back off and start from here as an excuse not to do as much when you know for a fact you can. You're just being lazy. But then it goes the same way as well, where we just say, right, just get it done. Sometimes if you continue just to get it done, that can lead to injury, that can lead to overuse of your bodily systems and stuff like that. So Middle ground is always usually best. Try not to go to extremes. But I would definitely say you know best if you are simply being lazy and using, let's just do a bit as an excuse, or if you are taking the feedback from your body and it's saying, yeah, no, it's not going to happen today, mate. Um, and saying, okay, right, well, if it's not going to happen this way, let's do a little bit. You know best. That's what would you reckon on
Again,
that?
yeah, it's just I think it's a subjective view. Depends what you're talking about. I think
Hmm.
it's just foundation at the end of the day for me. That's my way of thinking. I've pretty straight line with that. I'll say if you're struggling with anything in terms of discipline, whether it be job related, related, it's just think of how you think it's going to be easy for yourself to start just by starting to do it. Like there's no point trying to overcomplicate
Mm,
things. Just start easy and go from there. That's probably the only way I can say about it. Again,
mm,
regards to any sort of discipline, say for example, we talked about earlier with motivation, same thing, isn't it? Really, same discipline, same motivation. It's just what's going to get you motivated, or what's going to get you to do something. I guess would be if let's say for example running. If I was to say I'm going to do like a 10 mile run today, I'm not motivated to do it. It's like, well, if I'm not going to do a 10 mile run, I might as well do a 2 mile, well, 5 mile run or a 2 mile run. Just break it down. Or another point of view, another way of looking at it is if you're a fat loss, if you're looking to lose 10 kg, rather than saying I need to lose 10 kg, I need to lose 1 kg 10 times. Probably the easy way to
mm,
look at it. If I lost a kg, right, one down, 9 to go. Probably that's the only way I can think of it really. In terms of like, struggling
mm,
to stay disciplined, just try and break it down. Like you say, just
mm,
make things easier for yourself in terms of training. If you can't do a full training session, do half the amount or limit the amount you do.
mm. Yeah, it's a lot of the times I find with people struggling with discipline is that they are getting overwhelmed with the journey that they are on. So, for example, if someone's like you said, if we take the example of you doing a 10, not 10 kilos, if we take the example of losing 10 kilos, a lot of times someone struggling to stay disciplined is because they feel overwhelmed with what they currently have left to do, instead of focusing on what they can currently control. Um, Oftentimes when you bring yourself back into what you can currently control, that alleviates some of the feelings of being overwhelmed. Um, but there's one constant. There is one constant, regardless of which way you go, and that is you have to do the work, regardless. If it's doing 5 miles instead of 10, or it's thinking of it a different way. So you got to lose a kilo 10 times rather than 10 kilos one time. You have to do the work. You have to put the work in. So the sooner you accept the fact that you have to put the work in, that's going to make it a lot easier for you to be able to try and control the feelings of being overwhelmed. If you feel if I said to you, right, okay, you got to put the work in to lose 10 kilos, you're going to think, shit, you got to put the work in to run 10 miles. Jesus Christ, that's a long time. That's a long, journey or whatever. If I said to you, right, okay, you got to put the work in to run a mile. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, right, you've run your first mile. Now you've got to put the work in to run another one. Okay, then another one, then another one, then another one. Ultimately, you still get to the same place, but you need to accept the fact that regardless of which way you choose, whether it's the way that is not as cut and dry, not as straightforward, or whether it's going around slightly, you still have to put the work in. Do you agree with that?
No, yeah, I mean, it's essentially what I've said as well. So it's just you got to, obviously,
Yeah.
but you got to do it. Yeah, so breaking it down to easy goals and just actually having to do it. Don't think there's anything else to be
Mm,
said about that. I say, at the end of the day, in terms of discipline, you've got to be. Probably a good way of looking at it is as well. You look at the army and things like that. they give you drills to do a stay disciplined. So, for example, I mean, I might quote me if I'm wrong here, but like the first thing they teach you to do in boot camp stuff like that is you got to get out of bed, you got to make your bed, you got to clean your shoes or whatever. I mean, I'm only going off movies here, but that's essentially every fucking movie that they do. If they start doing their army training, they have to get out of their cabin bed. They got to make the bed, clean the shoes for an hour or however long they do it for. It's usually with a toothbrush, and then
the one that you use.
So this is about getting into habits of doing things. If you get into habits, and it'll become the norm.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, last two questions, and then I will let you go, James, because we've been here for a while.
Hungry. I'm getting hungry.
Hey? Yeah, me too, mate. Feeling overwhelmed and don't know where to start with toning up. So I think this goes back to what James and I just spoke about. If you are feeling overwhelmed, focus on the smaller things first. Instead of focusing on the whole thing, focus on, okay, right, for the next week, I am going to walk 5,000 steps a day, for example, and then you can build on that. That's going to increase your NEAT, which is going to help you tone up, so on and so on. And then you can go from there and say, right, I'm consistently hitting 5,000 steps. Let's build it up. So let's hit 7,000. Then as soon as you reach a good amount of steps, so roughly around 7 to 10,000, I would say, per day, then I would suggest maybe, okay, right, going into doing a home workout of some kind. Obviously, we can't access gyms, so it would have to be a home workout unless you've got your own place or your own space. That's the training side of it. Nutrition side is a lot harder to maneuver around when there is no context with the person who you are trying to talk to with it, if that makes sense. So when there's no context with, so if I was to say, right, okay, you're feeling overwhelmed to lose weight, but you know, unless you know where you're feeling overwhelmed and unless you know what kind of feelings of being overwhelmed you're having, it's very hard to answer the question, if that makes sense. So, but there are generalizations that we can say, what I can say. Focus, instead of trying to do an overhaul of a completely new diet plan, one of the things I've said is, again, focus on one thing at a time. So if you becoming more active is something that you haven't got into a routine yet, just focus on that. Just get that down. As soon as that has happened, then you can start looking at the other thing. Other things that you could do with the diet wise is everyone has some kind of knowledge of what's good food and what's not good food. What's good, healthy, wholesome food, what's not, what's processed. Make sure the majority of your food is from good, healthy, wholesome food sources. And generally, just cut down on portion sizes. And it is literally as generalized as that. It doesn't have to be complicated, but if you are feeling overwhelmed, then start small and then expand as you get things into a new routine, as you get into a new routine, as you start manifesting new habits and so on. What would you say, James? Would you add on anything?
I think I'll go back to the point where you said about it. Obviously, with a diet, I don't think it has to be that complicated. I think even if it is made complicated, I think you can break it down, like you said, to certain things, especially with macros. So a lot of the time, when it comes to macros, it's easy for us as PTs to say, right, here's your macros, here's your protein, your carbs, your fats, here's your calorie target, here's your plan, things like that. That can feel a bit overwhelming, granted. But I think the best way to look at it is, like for myself, when I deliver a plan to a client, I'll say, right, I've got your carbs, your fats, and your protein here. But don't worry about the carbs and fats per se. Focus on the calories and the protein. So breaking it down, so already I've eliminated the issue of having too much information thrown at once by saying, just hit your protein target, hit your calorie target. Going back to what you said about wholesome food. So yeah, just try and keep yourself to a consistent amount of wholesome foods. So going for like unprocessed foods, obviously things like your whole grain rice, pastas, potatoes, things like that. I think carbs, obviously, fats, go for like fresh fruit and veg, not carbs, not fruit and carbs, but you know what I mean. And then just again, just trying to, like say, minimize your portions. But even if you don't minimize your portions, reduce the calories. So like I say, with my social platform, I do a lot of infographics with food swaps, and I provide those food swaps in my plans as well. So giving the client options of, say, let's say for example cheddar, like cheese or anything like that, you can get reduced fat options for that, and they minimize the amount of fats you have and calories you're going to have in that anyway. Same with like meats, going for red meats. You're going to have, it's easy to buy the 20% fat mincemeat because yeah, it's there, it's cheaper. But then if you go from 20% to 5%, you're already eliminating a lot of calories from that. And you're also getting, it says about say both 500 grams, one's 20%, one's 5%. You're also getting more protein in that because a lot of protein obviously being a lot denser. So you're getting more calories, well, less calories, but more protein. So even going from like chicken. So a good example I use as well for chicken, people love having drumsticks and stuff like that, 5, but you can still have them, just be mindful of having what you're having. So having a chicken breast is probably about 110, 120, about 210 calories. No, probably about 120 calories. I'm not 100% sure on that. Chicken thigh. Chicken thigh is about 190, around that sort of category of calories, and then drumsticks about 210. You get less out of your drumstick than you are out of the breast, and you're getting a lot more protein and a lot more out of your breast than you are your drumsticks. So it's about being realistic of what you can actually choose. Say, oh well, I'm not losing weight, but I've had chicken. Well, again, if you have chicken, you can still have a lot of calories in that chicken. It just depends what you have and the portion size, like you say, that you're having. And it goes the same with like condiments as well. So it's easy to say, oh, we're having a salad, but you're putting salad dressing on, you're putting olive oil in and things like that. Again, nothing wrong with that, just being mindful of what you're having. It's just about, it doesn't have to be complicated, just be mindful of what you're eating. Same with say, like your oils, using spray light over olive oils and things like that, reducing your calories, 1 calorie per spray. Whereas if you have a tablespoon of olive oil, 100 calories. So already you're eliminating 100 calories a day. Or let's say you have 3 meals, that's 300 calories per day saved, just because you go for spray light rather than olive oil. 300 calories over the week, it's what, 2,100 calories saved. That can be used for something else, if anything, if you want to. I think it's just about being mindful of what you're eating. If you're not sure about, if you're being overwhelmed by what you're eating, look on the back of the whatever you eat. Everything has nutrition information now, thank God. So if you aren't sure what you're eating, just look on the back. It'll tell you. You can pick up a packet of chicken, a breast, it'll tell you there. Pick up a packet of drumsticks, it's there. It's like, right, that's a lot less. There's a lot less calories in that than there are that. Obviously, I might just go for that then, but it gives you that option. And that's probably just the diet side of it. In terms of being overwhelmed, I think it's just try and simplify it where you can. It doesn't need to be complicated. It can be a very simple process for you. Just getting the tools to help you out with that. If you've got the tools to help you out with that, you're already on your way. I think the best way to look at it, in terms of a whole program, just stick to the basics at the gym. Try and use MyFitnessPal with it or something like that, so you can track your calories, so you know what you're eating. That does all the work for you. Sticking to a simple program at the gym, that does all the work for you. And that's really it. I can't really say. So again, in terms of being overwhelmed, it's a subjective view, and I think it depends on how much you want to turn up as well. I think if you're saying you need to turn up, what sort of weight you're at already, how much do you need to lose
Mm.
I mean, I get the questions obviously in the sense that you're asking because your goal is to tone up, but I mean, without knowing where you're at, it's hard to tell how much you need to tone up. Because if you've got, let's say, 40% fat and you want to tone up, yes, that's going to feel overwhelming because you've got a long way to go essentially, but it still can be done. Whereas if
Mm.
you were, say, 20% body fat and you want to tone up, you're already essentially there. You just got to just reduce to an extra
Mm.
5-10%. Um,
Mm.
there's two differences there. I think you go a long way with that. You can talk all day about what sort of subject you want to talk about. But I think I can't really say a
Mm.
lot about that, to be fair. I think that just covers everything I need to say. And again, if you are overwhelmed, just it's always handy just to talk to someone about it in terms of how can I go from here. Like, if you don't know where you're going, speak to one of us. We do that.
Mm. Yeah, I had someone message me the other day saying that they're feeling overwhelmed, and they messaged me yesterday or the day before, saying they've for the last 4 days they've stayed consistent with the things that I said to implement, and yeah, they've been doing really well. So um, if you're watching, well done. I'm really impressed. It's not easy, but well done. Okay, so we've got one final question. Um, got no kit, but want to build muscle. What do I do? Uh, Check out my seminar that's on YouTube. So I've got a seminar that's on YouTube that is all about building muscle during lockdown. Um, it goes into a lot more detail than what I'm going to say now, but I'll say the overall the overview now, and then James, if you want to add in after, you can. So the myth of having a building muscle rep range of 8 to 12, 8 to 15, it has been busted. You can now build muscle from a rep range of 5 reps to 35 reps. That range, you can still build muscle. The higher the rep range you go, the closer you need to go to muscular failure. So, for example, if I'm doing push-ups um, and I'm able to do a lot of reps, I'm going to need to go closer to the point where I cannot do another push up than if I wasn't. So if I was doing a bench press, for example, and I could do 5 reps, I may want to leave a couple of reps in the tank to prevent injury. But if I'm doing a push up and I can do a lot more reps, going closer to failure will help stimulate the muscle just as well. If you have got no kit, stick to the basics, the push-ups, the chair dips. I've looked for dumbbells, adjustable ones, and they are extremely expensive. They've gone right up. So focus on going through a wide rep range, and don't be afraid to cross that 15, 20 mark and go into the higher reps. Use things such as eccentrics and pauses. So when I say eccentrics, like the negative portion of a squat. If you slow that right down, you will incorporate a lot more muscle damage. Even though that isn't directly seen to be a precursor for building muscle, it is still possibly viable, so still worth doing. Not eccentrics as in muscle damage. Pauses. All these things though will help you get closer to muscular failure because you haven't got much because you haven't got much kit. You will be able to hit muscular failure by using these methods as well. So if you do push-ups, you can do loads, slowing them down to doing 5 seconds on the way down and pausing at the bottom. I guarantee you won't be able to do as many. Progressive overload you can do in certain ways because you haven't got any kit. It's going to be harder to progressively work harder with loads, so you won't be able to increase your weights. Because of that, increase your reps and increase your sets. Training volume, I'm going to say training volume as in how many sets you do per week, has been shown to be the primary driver for building muscle. Okay, so if you want to build muscle, look to increase your sets. Take an overview on to be careful increasing too much because that could lead into overtraining. But then if you look into my webinar, it's got all of that in there for you. When to increase the sets, how much should you increase it, and stuff like that. And that's on my YouTube channel. But if you go to the link in my Instagram, it's on there for you. And you will often find that you will be doing the same movements a lot of the time. That's fine. At the end of the day, if you've got limited equipment, it means you've got limited exercises that you can perform. But that's okay. We do what we must in times like these. Even though it's not optimal, we can still get things done. So to summarize, what I would say is use a wide rep range. So don't be afraid to go around the 30 to 35 reps if you are doing things like squats, for example. Slow down the eccentrics, so slow down the negative pauses, so going down in the squat and stuff like that, and incorporate pauses. This will help you achieve muscular failure. Even though you don't need to go to failure because the load is, because you're not having heavy weights, is probably a good idea. Look to increase your sets during the weeks as well, so incorporate more workload. That will help keep driving, to keep progressing the muscles to work. And make sure your diet is good. So high protein, make sure you're in a surplus, eating more calories than you're burning. Just be careful of that fat gain, because obviously you aren't being as active if you're not working anymore. But yeah, there's all that and more. I mean, my presentation is, I think, about 23 minutes long, so it goes into it quite extensively. But yeah, check that out. And that is all I have to say on that. What about you, James?
Sum it up to a degree. I'll probably just add that you can, or if you haven't got the equipment, you can always look to. I mean, it's been a popular thing over lockdown where people are adding weights to, well, cans of food and things like that to a bag. And if you are struggling for equipment, one thing I probably would recommend, if you can get it, is bands. I mean, they are cheap. You can get them on Amazon. You can get a set of 5 for like, what, 15 quid max, I think. I'd probably say if you are looking to get some equipment, probably just get bands. And progressive overload, is, like you said, it's going to be the key thing as well. Just try and, like you say, eccentric movements and negatives, anything like that. Another thing as well is just try and mix up what you're doing. So unilateral movement as well. Just try and, if you're doing a squat, maybe do like a reverse lunge, split squats, things like that. And try and put the load onto one leg or one arm, whatever you're doing. Like so shoulder presses you can do with a bag. So you can probably get about 10 kilos in a bag anyway. So it's 10 kilos there. It's not a lot if you're lifting 30 kgs before, but change the reps to how you need to, and then segregate them out. So if you are struggling to get enough of a workout into a whole body, trying to specify what workout you're going to do. So just like I say, as long as you're not overdoing it, specify it to maybe like your shoulder workout. You're probably not getting as much out of it as you would do well, you wouldn't get as much on the other body parts you'll want to work, but you can always just do like maybe 2 muscle groups rather than 3 or 4. It saves you time, and also you're still getting the most out of your workout. I think that's probably all I'll add to it, because you've pretty much summed it up anyway.
Yeah, this again, talking about muscle building, is my primary field. Is what I love the most. The principles will always stay the same with muscle building: progressive overload, individualization, specificity, that kind of thing. But yeah, take a look into my seminar, and it'll explain it even more. If you guys want any more help with it, just message me or James, and I'll put his info down at the bottom for you guys, because this is going on YouTube. Yeah, that's it, James. I've kept you for 90 minutes. Yeah, man. Yeah. We smashed. Well, I say we smashed for it. We spoke quite a bit, to be fair. But yeah, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm now going to go eat my last meal of the day. This has been my fourth or fifth. So I'm on 2,800 to 2,900 calories a day. So I'm eating all the food.
Go for it, kid. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, considering I'm younger than you, I'm still a kid.
All right. Put the age barrier. Yeah.
just by 1 year. That's enough.
You could have
That's
said you were
enough.
younger and you have to add the year in there.
Oh, that's fine by me, mate. I'm still younger. I just look older because of the beard, the facial hair.
Again, digging me, are you?
Yeah, but you can actually grow hair. I can't. Well, I can, but I look like Fire Tap.
Well, fair enough.
All right then, mate. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Right.
And James, thanks for coming. I really appreciate you coming on, mate. All right. See you later, everyone.